Hello, and welcome to what I'll call a timely conversation among friends today as we celebrate the launch of Managing Toxic People, which is a brand new transformation journey on the Rali Change Experience platform. I'm Chris Saltz, CRO at Rali, and I'm thrilled to introduce our partners, Vernon Sankey, Katey Lockwood. Both are co-founders of Improvemyworld and co-authors of several books, including The Way, Finding Peace in Turbulent Times, The Way Workbook, and what we're talking about today, Toxicum, Managing Toxic People. And I'd also like to introduce Rali's founder and chief experience officer, Larry Mohl. So Vernon and Katey, I'd like to start with you both and talk a little bit about your individual paths, your collaboration together in Improvemyworld, and just what exactly inspired you to tackle this crazy difficult topic of managing toxicity.
Shall I start, Katey? We come from very different backgrounds, as is pretty obvious when you look at us. But the fact is we share a common passion in wanting to transform people's lives. And we came together through a mutual friend. Katey had been studying philosophy and looking at, she's a spiritual teacher, she's a transformer, she is very good at helping people to manage their lives better. And I was working on a first book, which was called Stairway to Happiness, where I was trying to work through how can we combine the knowledge I have accumulated over time about how to make business environments more successful, but also combine that with a more personal element. And we started talking together and we found we had a lot in common. So we started writing books, we started doing courses, we do therapy together. We've both been on hypnotherapy courses, so we're both trained hypnotherapists. And we have found that both in the business world, with business executives and with individuals, it works. What we teach significantly helps them. So we created the first book, which was our first book together, which was The Way, Finding Peace in Turbulent Times. And the Toxicum, so Managing Toxic People, is an offshoot of that. It says, well, if you want to live well in a turbulent world, how can you apply that more specifically to a business environment? And then we discovered and saw, and I mean, my own experience has been witness to that the subject of toxicity is enormous. So throughout my career, I have been faced with all kinds of toxic situations. They go all across industries, as I've worked in different industries. I've worked in different cultures, in different countries. It's always the same. There's high level of toxicity around, and if it's not grasped, dealt with, and people trained and shown how to manage it, it can disrupt even the best companies. It only takes one bad apple, one person who's toxic, to completely unsettle the harmony of a team. And what happens when they're unsettled is creativity goes out of a window. The attempts to do new things goes out of a window because people then are in survival mode and all they want to do is hold on to what they've got. And so you destroy all the growth opportunities of a company. Now, that's at the business level. Where Katey comes in, and I'm going to ask her to tell about her story, is that human beings who are at work are also human beings at home. Right? They're the same people. But if they have a toxic problem at work, they've probably got a toxic problem at home and vice versa. And so by helping them to manage their toxicity and helping them to manage the toxicity of others, we are helping them to improve their mental health generally, which is so important because we know we've got a mental health issue, which is almost as great, if not greater, than the pandemics we've been suffering. So I'll hand over at this point to Katey, who'll explain her background and how she comes into this, because we work together on clients, whether they are individuals or corporates or groups.
Thank you, Vernon. My background is, as Vernon said, in NLP. I did philosophy at the London School of Economics, and I've done hypnotherapy and emotional intelligence. And I think what Vernon was saying is what we discovered or wanted to understand is how can we unlock human potential and how can we get the best out of people and so that they are living in their best version of themselves. So we were looking at the many different layers to what creates the best leader or what creates the best individual to perform at the most highest level. So I've worked with, as Vernon's saying, CEOs, athletes, sort of a multi-dimension of people of different walks of life, but they often have the same sort of under layer of difficulties and challenges and adversities. So that was really what led us to writing Toxicum, Managing Toxic People. And what we wanted to do is to help people, as Vernon was saying, whilst they might have toxicity in the workplace, they often don't have the work-life balance. So what we're trying to do is to create that sort of balance for them at home so that they can create a healthy environment at home, as well as having, a good environment in the workplace. It kind of works hand in hand. So yeah, that we saw that there was a very much a need, particularly at this time. I think the pandemic sort of showed the sort of layers of all the toxicity we were facing. We're seeing a lot more psychotherapists speaking about how illness and health and wellness is actually linked to a toxic culture, and how we can, bring about more wellness in the world by identifying where those problems are coming from and how we actually change those. We understand now that there's a link to illness and toxicity, and it's manifested in the body. When the mind is in a toxic environment, we often see the detrimental effects within the body. So they are definitely intrinsically linked.
I love this concept. And at our core, businesses are, it boils down to businesses are people, families are people, and that is the really the common denominator across. And I love the holistic approach that you both are taking here. Larry, you also have a pretty fascinating story. It led me to join Rali around what originally inspired you to found our company. And I think people would also enjoy hearing that, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. Thanks, Chris. And first of all, it's just really great to be in this conversation with Vernon and Katey today. So I appreciate you guys, leading into this conversation, because this is really an important one for us. As you said, Katey, I think, we're experiencing things in my own family that are hangovers from COVID and other things. And it just, it's difficult for many people. So, but in terms of Rali, Chris, before I started the company in 2016, prior to that, I served as a chief learning officer and head of transformation for Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. Here's where I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. And before that, for the American Express company in Manhattan, and then for the cell phone division of Motorola in Chicago. And before that, I was an engineer. So I don't even know what I'm doing here, Vernon, but I was an engineer who helped, who transitioned my career into quality improvement, organizational learning, change management, all that kind of good stuff. And I did that for many, many years. And I would say that after doing that for lots of years and handling learning and development for leadership and learning for thousands and thousands of employees, I was fairly frustrated. I'm going to just say honestly, because, a lot of the techniques that we were using to scale development were based on methodologies that we were using for compliance, like send out a program, have somebody pass a test, and you're done, so to speak. And so, and as content has become more and more free, let's say, like the largest training site in the world is YouTube, right? So you can get content on just about anything. The question really becomes, what are the strategic things that a company's trying to do to actually grow the company? And if you really think about it for a second, those things require shifts in mindsets and behaviors for people, so if the people aren't growing, kind of as Chris said, the company's not growing. And that's just kind of how it works. Now, the methodologies that we were using just weren't getting there in terms of being able to actually drive. In fact, what the research that I had done and other people had done showed that if I put people in a really good workshop in a corporate setting, only 10 to 20% of those people will activate new behaviors in their job. We all know they get back to work and maybe they have to deal with a toxic person, right, Katey? And they just like all of it just goes to nowhere, right? And so I studied what are those things you can do to get people to move from knowing about something to activating their mindsets and behaviors in the job. And I found a couple big principles. Number one, it happens in groups. So we tend to think like if I change individual separately, that somehow the organization is going to change. Doesn't actually work that way. It happens in groups, in a corporate setting, right? And at home. Think about, can you change without the family changing, right? So it's like these things are intricately, they work together, right? And so the first principle was this works better in groups. Second of all, it's a journey over time. What I love about what you guys are doing is that you're helping people through a journey. You're not just saying, we're going to have one session and you're going to be great. No problem. We just know this doesn't work, but somehow corporations think that's how you actually make change, right? So we have to change the mental model. And what I learned was there's three things people need to do on this journey. They need to learn something. They have to do it in a way that's pretty tight, pretty compact, and have an ability to interact with some form of content and each other, the group. The second thing is, guess what? They need to try it. They need to practice it. They need to do it. And when they do it, if they have somebody supporting them and holding them accountable, they tend to do it more. And then third, in the context of a group, if they can share their struggles and successes, if they can appreciate others for helping them, if they can encourage other people who are maybe not as far along to keep going because it's worth it, we call that inspire. So Rali is built on this core methodology that changes mindsets and behaviors at very large scale, thousands and thousands of employees, built on this simple architecture we call Learn, Do, Inspire. So Chris, I'll stop there. And like you said, maybe later I can just show what managing toxic people looks like on Rali.
Well,
Perfect.
Chris, if I could just add, Larry, I mean, everything you said is absolutely wonderful. It's exactly what Katey and I seek to do, because you can't change behavior in less than 3 weeks, 6 weeks, 3 months. If it's a bad habit, it takes 3 months, right?
That's
takes
right.
Time. It's not a mind game, it's a heart game. So you can read anything you want on YouTube. You can see it and intellectually understand it.
Exactly.
It doesn't mean a thing. It doesn't mean anything has changed. It's just you've understood the thing. Nothing has changed in your behavior. So the behavior has to shift, and it takes time to do it. And one of our strategies for managing toxic people, strategy number 7, is actually have a network of people around you. Have a network of people, because if you all share the same thing, you can help each other. Exactly. So when somebody is sort of, oh my goodness, I've just had this toxic thing, and the other say, yeah, and here's what we normally do, isn't it? This is how we deal with it. It's not such a big deal, right? It completely eliminates the problem. But these things are not instinctive, right? They're not instinctive at all. They have to be learnt. And there's an intellectual phase, there's a heart phase, there's a do phase. And then if you've really done your job right, and if you're a leader, you have to inspire other people and show it by example. And that's a double thing. Not only have I got to understand it and change my behavior, but I have to be very aware and conscious of all my actions. And if ego starts coming into them, which is toxicity, I have to deal with that. And I have to deal with my own toxicity first before I can try and help other people. And that's another fundamental piece in our program, where we make it clear that we encourage people to share their own toxicity, because we all have the toxic capability within us. We all have it, right? But we're not aware of it, and we sort of repress it. No. Face it, deal with it. Yeah. And now you're in a position to do something right. I'm sorry, but you've got me started, Larry, because what you're saying is so close to what Katey and I are doing, but it's wonderful to hear it from you.
Well, the methodology was built on studying folks like yourselves who are making real change. and are committed to what does it take? Because, some people will say in the world of learning and development, let's say, they'll say content is king. I'm sure you've heard that statement. Content is king. Well, if content is king, then context is the kingdom, right? Because it's the context, my support group, the people I go to, the leader who's demonstrating it for me, who's modeling it for me, I, of course, have to intellectually understand. But I can tell you, if that was true, whenever I try and fix something in my house watching a YouTube video, I would have to call a mechanic afterwards as I mess it up, right?
True.
So, humans tend to index their ability to do things based on watching others. Like we're about to start the Olympics, right? And these people are going to make world-class stuff look so easy that we're going to go, oh, I could do that. That's no problem, right? And it's just nothing's further from the truth. You don't know the hours and of the learning, doing, and inspiring they've done. And guess what? Why do the Olympic athletes trade in teams? Why are they showing each other their secrets? I wonder. Because they all get better. And that helps them. So we can get each other going forever on this.
Well, I mean, one of the big problems and one of the reasons we wanted to work with Rali is one of the big problems of a lot of courses is they're tick box exercises.
Yes.
They're there. And I mean, I've worked with companies that have got thousands of programs online, thousands. And people then say, okay, well, I've done that. I've ticked the box. And the corporation says, well, they've ticked the box. It must be okay. No. I mean, all they've done is gone through a routine of which they've retained nothing. They've not shared it with anybody. Their boss probably doesn't even know they've been online on this particular course, but it satisfies some bureaucrat somewhere that says, I've got to fill up these forms and send them to some authority that says I've done all this training. So it's utterly useless. That training is utterly useless. You've learned absolutely nothing. So the Rali system is a very, very different one. It's not like a normal learning system that anybody can get. Because it involves people, it encourages them to think, it encourages them to contribute, it encourages them to share with others, and it's willing to take the time to go through the thing systematically. On top of that, because of the AI metrics that are provided, there's data that is provided back, which is extremely helpful. The system is scalable, it's flexible, it works with a corporation to fit into their own systems on their platforms. And so it's a totally different experience. It is not in the same league at all. It's not in the same category. Very, very different. And that is what attracted us, because this isn't easy. I mean, we don't want just people to say, okay, I've understood how to manage toxic people. It's not that easy. You're trying to change other people's behavior and you're trying to change your own. Wow, that takes a bit of time. And in order to do that properly, you need to have the right platform. And so that is really why this is our launch into the US. And we didn't want to go with anybody else because they didn't meet that standard.
Well, I mean, that's wonderful to hear, and honestly, we're just honored. I mean, I can say as the founder of the organization, the whole idea was why we're excited about, Katey and Vernon, and the work that you guys are doing was a couple different things. I mean, honestly, it was number one, it's you too. It's like, we're not a platform that's trying to build this huge library of unknown people. It's just not what we're doing. There's plenty of that out there, right? We're trying to find, and we have found in you two, signature thought leaders who have practical experience and have actually made change in organizations. Believe it or not, that's not that easy to find, right? There's a lot of great speakers out there who are writing wonderful books, nothing against that. But if you haven't been a change maker, we're less of a good fit, right? Because we're looking for people who can make change. The second thing is that the actual subject matter is something that, quite frankly, we've struggled with ourselves. It's something that we can say, you know, as an ex-buyer of this type of thing, that I can say, I could see my friends buying this, right? I could see them saying, this is a problem in my organization. And this would raise to the level of executives caring, right? If executives aren't going to care about it, as you guys know, you know, it's nice, but not gotta have. So executives have to care. The third thing is, and you just articulated it better than I ever could, Vernon. It's the methodology that you believe in, the philosophy is hand in glove with what we believe in and how you actually make change. So if you line up those three things, incredible people who are making change, have something to say, a real need in the world, both at home and at work, and we believe in the same methodology, kind of, that's, let's go. You know, that's the way that we think of it.
You mentioned a really critical word, which is care. Care. It's almost gone out of dictionary of business to care, right?
Yeah.
Okay, what does that mean? I care to do a good job. I care for my colleagues. I care for my home life. I care for my health. It's called self-love in a more sort of slightly highfalutin thing, but it's very important, because if you don't have respect for yourself, how are you ever going to have respect for anybody else? And the other thing is, you know, we find in the business world, but I mean, Katey and I find with individuals, the big problem is a problem of ego. You know, people are either frightened to be humble, or as if it would be a sign of weakness to be able to say, I don't know, I'm finding this very hard. I find it very, very difficult to say that. And yet that is one of the most important ways of learning. I mean, I have, you know, I've had 50 years of business at all levels, but I've been a CEO, a chairman of different companies, multinational, and I can tell you two things. One is, I would never have been able to do any of these things without the collaboration of my colleagues. No. And the second thing is, I cannot think of one decision in my life, and I had massive acquisitions to do, and so I can't think of one that if I'd been on my own, I'd have got it right. Sometimes I'd have got it catastrophically wrong. And it was coming really spectacularly wrong. And it was only that the colleagues were great at saying, Vernon, that's dumb.
Yeah.
You can't do that. And I remember one of my colleagues in the States, actually, it was one of them, he said, Vernon, you can't say that. And in front of me, he tore up my piece of paper, you see. Well, and I said, well, that is fabulous. Now tell me what you think I should be doing here. Tell me what I should be saying. Now, what's wrong with that? You see, I think that he felt brilliant, and he kept on going greater and greater. He's had wonderful positions elsewhere since then. And the team said, well, fine, you know, tell me the truth. It's about the truth I want to know. I don't want to know all this nonsense. You know, the garbage I don't need. Tell me the truth.
Yeah.
And then in dealing with toxic people and dealing with all people, we are searching for the truth. Because once we know what the truth is, we can deal with it. And there is not a single problem, not a single toxic situation that we cannot deal with if we know the truth. So we'll find it out one way or another. But
one way or another.
But it helps if we can actually inspire people to share that with us.
Yeah. You know, I am curious, Katey, a question for you is that I've been thinking about is, because you work with a lot of executives, right, that come to you with what's going on with them. So, you know, kind of two questions. One is, like, what's going on with them that they say, oh my gosh, I need help, right? And do you think with what we're doing together, we could get people to lean into the help that they need earlier, you know, before it becomes something where, you know, it's at a fever pitch level for them? You know, what are your thoughts about that?
Most of the time it's because there's something that's quite catastrophic that's happened in their life. So it could be a divorce, or it could be, you know, a breakdown, a burnout, or there's something where there's an integrated change. So it will often be an event, or yeah, something like that, which has just sort of changed the course of their life, which means they've had to then look into, how do I deal with this? How do I deal with this effectively for everyone around me, my family, whether it's in a burnout and they're not actually having a very good balanced family life. So the balance is, constantly being subjected to the workplace at home as well.
Yeah.
And the pressures of that then obviously integrate into the family life as well. So it's that balance of how do I balance being, whatever my job title is, but then I come back and I'm able to be present with my family, and I'm a good communicator and I can understand what it is to live in a healthy environment. There's normally an event that will normally happen where they will just often, as I said, it's either a burnout, a divorce, or something, a family death, or something that just inspires them to think, I want to live differently.
Yeah.
And or even an illness that's happened as well. People have been diagnosed with cancer and things like that, and then they think, is this actually the way I should be living? Or they start to question that, and that's a really good place to be, because then it allows them to actually then re-establish a different way of thinking about their lives, and that's when we can integrate change and transformation. So it's the questioning of perspective. How is this affecting my daily life? Is it actually positively affecting me or negatively affecting me? So it puts them in the driving seat, really, of looking at their life and whether it's actually doing the best for them. So, yeah. I mean, and these are all human problems. We all have them. It doesn't matter really if you're a sports personality or whatever, we all have them at different levels of society. So it's just dealing with those challenges, and maybe they've got a toxic parent, or they've had to deal with a very difficult childhood and they're seeing it manifesting in their life at work, but they're not recognizing where those patterns are actually manifesting in those parts of their life. So it just helps them to become more self-reflective so that they can change and transform all parts of that. But it does take work. As you said, it's not tick box overnight, one day. It's an integrative, transformative journey, so that they're learning this as they're going along, and then that's when the real change happens, because they're actually seeing it for themselves. That's what coaching really is about. Is we're not telling you how to live, we're giving you tools and practices for you to see it yourself, so then you can effectively transform that in your own life, and that's where you see the biggest change.
Well, and
I mean, you mentioned the word, sorry, Larry, go on.
No, go ahead.
Well, you mentioned the word mindset change, and it's really, really important, because life is a journey. So it doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't matter what job you're in. It's a journey, and we have a habit, and we're conditioned to think of things that happen to us as problems, right? They're hurdles. Well, yes, that's life. And actually, the way you grow is by facing those and viewing them as opportunities. They're not insuperable problems. They're the best way to learn. And so, as Katey says, often people come to us, but because there's been a catastrophe of some sort, right, as in terms of private clients, something's gone terribly wrong. And they say, oh my goodness, something's wrong. Actually, a door has just opened into an opportunity.
Right.
Because before that, these people would, and I've had very senior executives who have catastrophic lives and are about to kill themselves, quite frankly. And then the disaster happens and they go, oh dear, wonderful. You're now actually finally taking a look at yourself, and you've got a fantastic opportunity to do something about it. And not only will it help you, but it'll help all the people around you. And if you're a leader, all the people you're supposed to be leading, because if you're like that, how the dickens are they going to be inspired by you? Right? And we're quite tough with people and say, look, come on, this is a great opportunity. Do you not want to take it? Grasp it. Now, if they say no, well, go back to square one, we start again. If they say yes, we say, now you're going to have to work on yourself, because you've been spending however many years, 40 years, doing the wrong thing. How long is it going to take to do the right thing? Well, we can do it in 3 months, but you have to work. There's discipline, that's required for discipline and the desire to do it, the desire, the motivation to do it. Now, if we can instill that, which is what we do, then obviously you cannot help but get a better result. You cannot help. And it's great satisfaction when you are faced with a very toxic environment. It's a wonderful satisfaction to defuse it. Wonderful, wonderful. And then to see a person who has been highly disruptive, suddenly, because they're often very creative. The reason they're disruptive often is because they're frustrated, right? And I've had scientists who people say, oh, is a very difficult person, very toxic person. I say, actually, he just doesn't have an outlet for what he's trying. Nobody can understand what he's trying. We haven't made an effort because we're all in a slightly different cultural environment. Change your mindset on that. And the satisfaction of seeing these people grow is just wonderful.
Yeah.
So it's not a problem. It's an opportunity, a wonderful opportunity. And we like to say there's no such thing as an ordinary moment. Every moment is special. That's life.
Absolutely.
Larry, would you mind? I think another way of kind of tackling this would be a quick overview of how organizations are experiencing managing toxic people on Rali. Have you got a quick example you can kind of jog us through here?
Yeah, Chris, thanks for teeing that up. I would say this is actually a view of the Rali Change Experience platform and the journey section of the platform. So when I come into the platform, you'll notice this tile called Managing Toxic People. Go figure, right? And when I click on that tile, this journey unlocks. And the way that Rali works is that, as Vernon said, I've got my network of people around me. I've got a group of people who I'm actually going through this journey with a little bit over time that I can help and lean on for support. And what's neat about it is that normally there's some little locks over the top of this, so I'm only kind of going left to right. But we talked about the simple ability to learn within a short period of time. So for example, I'm going to click into this learn activity, and Vernon, just to emphasize what you said, I ended up calling these learning challenges on purpose. The idea was that we need to challenge ourselves, and in fact, in Rali, when I actually go and do when I actually begin this activity, I'm going to get access to fantastic content from Vernon and Katey, combined with questions. But until I get the question right, I can't move forward. Oh my gosh, right? Because I have to challenge myself in the moment of learning. And maybe I need to phone a friend, maybe I need to get some help, but I'm going to challenge myself to learn in the process. I'm going to have an opportunity to actually apply what I learned on the job, and I'm going to have the ability then to actually inspire others by which, like in this case, saying which strategies work for me. And within these do activities, which is the behavioral practice, there's actually, guides to help me do that on the job. So that's the simple way that this works, but this content is wonderful. And just to connect the dots, I'm always connected. So I can actually go through this by myself at my own time, but I'm always connected to my group through a discussion forum. I can create new discussions and have that discussion. There's a leaderboard that helps me see how my progress is going. I have access to resources and access to data, as Vernon said, that allows us to see the progress of people. But I want to go back to the network because this is the most important piece. Is I also can be assigned or I can actually pick somebody who's my learning partner, somebody who's special to me on this journey, that is both coaching me or giving me feedback and giving me, holding me accountable as I apply things in my work life or my home life. And so, hopefully that just gives people a little bit of an overview of what a leader, an employee, an organization would experience as they kind of go through this journey a little bit over time, to make this change. Generally, these journeys might last anywhere from 30 to 90 days. And again, building those better habits, dealing with toxic situations. And again, last thing I'll say is with what Katey's doing, maybe identifying in themselves that they need to work on something beyond what the journey can help them with. And they're aware of that now, so they can seek additional support.
That's great, Larry. And if I can just add, what we've done is we have some videos done by actors on case studies, and these are all real life case studies. They're all ones we have experienced, either Katey or I or both of us together, and so they are exactly as they were in real time. So we've got actors to play them out, but they illustrate the point, so it makes it more easy to understand. This is what it means by avoiding the toxicity victim. This is what it means by setting a boundary. This is what it means by being assertive. This is what it means by knowing who you are. So it actually illustrates the point and makes it easier for people to understand. And I know that's what you do with all of your courses.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Oh, fantastic.
Just one quick. I just wanted to say that we really want effective workplaces, and we really realize that you need to have a strong communicative workforce in order for it to work together. And if there is any parts of toxicity in there, it's really going to change that dynamic. So it's so important that this is recognized in corporations.
Yeah, so imagine that, with the work that we're doing together now, you can scale that to thousands of teams within and employees within the company versus the traditional way of kind of trying to do all these, workshops individually and taking years to try and set up a cultural context of a healthy work environment. That's the promise. That's our dream, together.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, we are about at time here. We are incredibly excited together as partners to bring this to market, to help leaders, people, organizations all move the needle. And speaking to those of you who are viewing this, if through listening in on this great conversation, you find yourself interested in learning more about managing toxic people on our Rali CXP Change Experience platform, you can sign up for a complimentary journey test drive. So you can follow a link that we'll provide in our LinkedIn post or the QR code that we'll provide momentarily as we wrap up, and we would be glad to host that. Any final thoughts before I wrap us up?
From my point of view, delighted, Larry. We have such an alignment between the platform that you're providing with the thinking that you have and what we are wanting to do. As Katey says, we want more effective teams that are more creative and that are happier. A happier team will always be more effective. And we want also people to have the opportunity to manage their lives in a totally different way. Because if they have problems at home, they're going to reflect in the workplace and vice versa. And so there is a need for harmony, for unity, and for understanding based on learning, and learning based on real examples and real research. So between the two of us, and what we're trying to do, what you're trying to do, it's completely aligned.
Absolutely. Absolutely. For me, I would just say, for all of everybody out there listening, I'm sure you can think of a toxic situation that's affecting your life right now, and or has in the past. I can think of many. And darn you guys for making me face my own toxicity. I'm gonna darn you. So, get going with this stuff. That's my challenge to everyone.
Awesome. Well, we'll also schedule a live Q&A session at some point in the near future. This is just a great opportunity for those of you that are interested in taking a test drive to, personally engage this team, bring questions, learn. So Katey, Vernon, Larry, thank you so much. And everybody watching, we hope to see you soon, and we'll have the QR code flashed on your screen here in just a moment as we wrap up. So take care.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Chris.
Chris.
Thank you.